Hello, everyone, and let me. There we go. And just to be sure, make sure my sound's not all scrambly. Oh, hello, everyone, and welcome to the coding stream. We are picking back up where we left off yesterday. Hopefully, we can get the rest of the animated sprite working. But before we get any further into that, let's check in with the kitties. We have 3 of them visible right now. I and Sammy are up in the cat tree. And it looks like Ember is over on the bed, on the tan blanket of all things. Normally, if Ember's going to be on the bed, she is on the pillow. Let's see, Cass is here with us. And I do need to reconfigure one of my settings here. The fan events for anniversaries don't seem to be coming through properly. So if I do miss that, sorry. I believe Levi came in yesterday and had that, and I did not notice. So yeah. A rebirth tomorrow, huh? Well, that's going to consume your life. Oh, dear. But let's get into this here. For those that were watching yesterday, we were running into some problems getting a pattern implemented, getting it so that we could turn specifics of a particular model into a resource. Because if it's a resource, we can then use it to... Did we get all 5? Did we get all 5? I saw Mason enter frame. Did Sherbet? Oh, yep, Sherbet's looking out the window. He must see something. Now one of our problems is that the sprite is moving when it's not supposed to. Okay, we're going to do... We're going to set the movement direction to its full marker here. And then we are going to set velocity equal to it. Otherwise, we'll set velocity equal to 0. You will be reborn, huh? Ha 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 ha. We're going to reset it. We're going to set up movement direction. Then if this results in a movement direction where X or Y is not 0, then we're going to move it based on the body to move's velocity. Quickly, though, let's test this. It should hold still. Okay. Again, this time with it moving. Okay, well, it hasn't catapulted itself into oblivion. That's good. That's good. But this should make it move. So why not move? Interesting. Nyanite Survivor Smart Fridge Edition. Yeah, but it's not produced by Todd Howard, so I don't think I'd get away with it. That Usario? Not sure, but either way, welcome to the stream. Welcome to the stream. We are trying to get a sprite to animate properly. The smartwatch edition, all you can see is the character sprite. I mean, in theory, we could zoom out, but after a while, it would just be like old Atari, you know, where you're just one pixel. Sadly, I'm not. I am in no way fluent in Spanish, so I won't be able to answer any questions or similar that are in that. But I appreciate your presence in any event. Okay. So we're getting this. Doing a physics process. So we're gonna pop here. We're gonna run it, and that should almost immediately trigger. So I am to its left. We should have a negative X and Y. Step in here just in case. Movement direction is both a negative X and a negative Y. Delta is a fraction of a second. 17 thousandths of a second. Speed is 0. This should result in 0. Ooh, maybe that's our problem. Maybe that's part of our problem here. Because I think this may have fixed part of the issue, is we weren't resetting velocity, so every frame it would just zoom to the left. Okay, it's reset to 0. Neither of them are equal to that. So we just release the pause. We just release the pause. Like so. Okay. So now if we go into our blob template, its speed oh, okay. Let's do that as a float. So then we go into the spawner. For those not familiar with what we're doing, we are making a survivor style game, a bullet heaven style game, using concepts and characters from our lore. Should be interesting. We've never coded in Godot before. We're using the Godot engine. So we're all learning together. Spawn.speed. Look at our blob template here. Blob. One. Okay, well, it can see me because it's looking to the left. Now they're looking to the right. Okay, well, they're not moving. That's a problem. Tracking movement. Ooh. They should be moving. Okay, movement direction is present. Body to move. See, we should have velocity, but I don't know where it hides in this. Hey there, Sakura. Welcome, welcome. We're closer than we were before. We had been paused for too long. It didn't like that. What's that? You may request. I cannot guarantee that I will acquiesce. Do not ask to drink the Nyano, even if it sounds tantalizing. AJ? Sure, we can use AJ. It will be easier to discern based on your current handle. I always appreciate it when people's screen handles include what they would like to be called. Oh, good question, Tass. Are we looking at like AJ or like Aj? So we always reset the body to move's velocity. But I get the impression... Well, no, we know velocity is working because in our blob code. Where is it hiding? So if we go into our blob body and we look at its script, oh, but this isn't where I want it to be. We are going to take that, though. We're going to keep that. Then we're going to attach a script. It's going to extend mob body. There we go. So, Aj. That is just fine. Oh, okay, okay. So, AJ. We're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, so if we go into blob body... body is a character body 2D and animated sprite. Godot engine, speak to me of character body 2D. Okay, it has a velocity. Let's move and slide. Well, we want move and collide. Move and slide was wonky. Hello, Sammy. I stopped giving Sammy back scratches, and she was telling me that she was displeased. Sammy is becoming increasingly vocal. She's finally learning that she can talk. She can essentially talk at me, get attention. It's still one of those fun things. Outside of like hissing, like warning call-outs, cats don't communicate with each other vocally. But they learn that they can communicate with a human being vocally, especially if you talk to them, like call them by their name, that kind of thing. They will eventually mimic the idea of making sounds at you to get your attention. Ember trills, but the kind of tone and pace of the trill is something that you can use to discern what she wants or how she's feeling. Like a high fast trill is, I didn't like that. Okay, so we have all those variables that we want. It'd be cool if we could put a watch. Can we put a watch? Oh, any of it. We have these things that we want. That one. Well, there you go. Oh, well, you guys couldn't hear it. But it said AJ. Why this no work? Because I don't think everything is going to be a character body 2D. It needs to be a physics body 2D. It's okay there, AJ. We, this is as much a chatting stream as a coding stream. Okay, physics body 2D doesn't have velocity. It is where we're getting our move and collide. Because ideally, some of these things are going to be static entities. Is it 2D? Where does it hide that? You can see some of my classes show up in here, like the game object. Collision object, physics body. So rigid body, where they only move, and character body is moved by script. Yeah. Static body. Yeah, so this is like if it were a tree, you're going to make it a static body, where the only reason a tree would move is if you move it in the script. That said, we could use rigid body for that, but yeah. So animatable body 2D would be a, you know, like a rock or a tree, but if you slid it, it would bump into other things. So I want to be able to use that. So it can't be character body 2D. It needs to be a physics body 2D, but a physics body 2D doesn't have a velocity. It just has move and glide. So I could expose a direction to move and not have the fundamental physics. Hey, Aniji, we've got the templating working. What I'm trying to do is get back to where the blobs can move. Right now they can turn and face, but they aren't moving properly. Like, I don't want this to be a... if you're not seeing who I am speaking to, folks, I am streaming to 3 different streams right now. There is the YouTube 16.9 or 16 by 9 format. There is the 9 by 16 tall format on YouTube. It has a tall suffix at the end of the stream name. And then on Twitch, Aniji is on Twitch. Aniji is one of our longtime viewers from the Twitch side of things. They prefer to watch on Twitch. They used to be around back when we streamed mostly Noida and when we were a Twitch affiliate. Spawner takes what? Spawner spawns mobs. No worries there, Aniji. That's part of why I started streaming on Twitch again. Is just to give folks the option. If you want to swing by Discord, you can put a song suggestion there. I can't act on it during stream. You know, if it's something that you think maybe I would like to hear just in general, and not put on stream, then that's going to be the easiest place. Otherwise, I'll forget. If it's something that you think I should play on stream, I would have to look at it and vet it to make sure it's something that I could play on stream without getting the copy strike hammer brought down upon my head. I mean, spawner would not be practical for spawning, like, inanimate objects. It could be interesting. It's that that is definitely going to fall under something copyrighted by somebody else. Whether they intend it or not, the act of them making it makes it theirs, and it would be claimable. Even if they say, unless they have published that it's public domain, that makes it a risk surface. But I can certainly listen to it. Processing. Okay, so I don't care if it's in a spawner, which means I can treat this as a mob. And if it's a mob, then mobs definitely use a character body 2D. Yes. So in mob body, it's okay that that's character body 2D. We look at mob template. It can be a packed scene. Ideally, it's character body 2D or it'll explode, but, you know. Okay, then we go into our spawner. Spawner takes a mob template, which ultimately is a character body 2D. but we want it to be a mob template. So we're gonna doesn't need to be there. Tracking movement, that becomes a problem. Because body to move. No, again. These should be character bodies because we want them to move. So even with tracking movement, it should be a character body. So if we go into our movement templates, we totally won't regret this. Still not moving. Oh. No. Because we need to have velocity set so it's exposed. We could expose that on the body, but then I'd have to make the body to move very specific to a physics body 2D. We may still do that, but I'd rather not just now. Still not moving. So that's not the problem. We've got facing correct. The velocity is detectable. Continue. Hey there, Brianna. Welcome, welcome. It's a floating object. Don't care about platform collision. We are trying to get our blobs to move. And they're not moving. Oh, wait. I think I know what's going on. Okay. Collision shape. layer is the floor on? Okay, there's no physics layer on this, so it can't be bumping into that. Here. We finally got these little guys trying to move. All right, let's... Gotta try one more thing before I go mad. And it's... Where's it speed typing? There we go. Okay, it's not movement. Got them animating. I've got them looking. The velocity is in the correct direction. Huh? But why? Did it just not save properly? Yeah. All right, we have collisions happening. You watch as I go to the right. As they turn right to follow, they change facing. And it's not until they have to go fully to the left that they'll change facing again. We will have to put a limiter on spawner so that it starts to destroy like the oldest blob or something like that, or the furthest blob. Okay. Okay, this is why they weren't moving. A speed of 1 is imperceptible to the extent where it was being rounded down. Let's put that at 1 again. We're going to go into our tracking movement. Now, speed is a float. That shouldn't matter. No, speed is an int. Float. Okay, they're being collide bumped away from each other, so we can't necessarily see it. I want to test a couple more of these. Let's see. What is it? 6. That's a substantial fraction. They are moving very, very slowly. think they are. Yes, you can see this one is slightly higher than the others. Okay. All right, now we need collision logic. So one of the things that we should do is put some object templates on them that should make it so some of the things can accept damage to each other. And that if a blob collides, it is going to send a message to the thing it bumped into and try to hurt it. But for the time being, go into the mob. The blob. Would it be the blob? Because what we want is a collision here. We don't want to have to process that collision during movement. We want this to emit an event. Go here, we look at this. Mouse entered, rendered. Nothing about collision there. Or there. What we want is some sort of indicator that there is an overlap or similar. This is just tree-related logic. So I'm not seeing any signals on this here. We could have that during movement. So that each movement object would emit a collision signal. That seems messy, especially if I start having different movement patterns. Like, let's say once a mob gets in a particular radius of the player, it moves in a straight line towards them faster, you know? Sort of like a magnet mine detection radius kind of thing. Once you get close enough, it lurches forward. I would have to check for signals on each one of those. Which could still be okay. Yeah. Each movement type can emit a signal. So if I go into a movement template, I don't like that. Reason I don't like that is that it has nothing. It's only vaguely to do with movement. It's only it's an adjacent concept that during movement you can collide. And it also leads to weird scenarios where I have to be processing the movement of, like, a bullet in order for the bullet to inflict harm, whereas if a player or something moves, it won't detect. That's fine. That's fine. Simplicity to begin with. Simplicity to begin with. So, movement templates have a kinematic This will be weird. You can see when it pops them into existence that they jar the other one out of the way immediately. That's okay. All right. So then we go into spawner. And it adds its child that it should ready itself. Then in my body. Hey there, Ethan. I do recall seeing you yesterday. Welcome back. We're trying to add collision now. We've got our blobs spawning properly and moving properly. Now we want them to bump into things. In particular, we want them to bump into the player. Every 2 seconds, we are adding a blob, and the blobs will slowly pursue the player. We could make them move noticeably faster, but for the time being. I'll probably go into the player and have a special movement handling there. Yep. Once I've got them bumping into each other, the next thing is to get the bodies involved, check that the bodies are of particular types, and then try to throw an event at them. Like, ask it, do you have this method kind of thing. Or an is-a kind of relationship. Well, even if they do the jump in, jump back there, Ethan, the act of doing that will still require a collision. Like, they have to touch. And that's what we're doing, is detecting, did they touch each other? That's the collision. So during movement... So here, let me show you this in 2D. This is the entity. So the visual of it, the bouncing blob, is just an image. The circle or the little oval around it, not sure if you can see it clearly, but let's... If you look, there's like a blue circle around it. That is its body. Like that in the world, that's what it is. So it can bump into things with that bubble. So what I want is when this bubble bumps into another bubble, that I get notified of it. So then I can do things like animate them differently or that kind of stuff. Yep, we'd have to have some sort of similar behavior there. Don't. Yeah, it's only returning one collision. That may be fine. So the problem is if something is moving very fast, it could collide with multiple things. We will have to adjust this thing's collisions, though. It collides with walls. It collides with enemies. It collides with the player. Objects. Lives in enemy space. This code is a Godot engine specific coding language called GD script. You can also code this in C#, but I'm not using that yet. Okay, it doesn't care about player bullets. It cares about walls. It cares if it hits the player. It cares if it hits an enemy, but and it cares if it hits an object. It won't try to hurt a fellow enemy, and this is treated as an enemy. I do wish I could set whether it would pass through, but we'll get there. Okay. Check the player object real quick. Player object exists in player space. It checks for walls. It doesn't matter that it can run into a player object. There's only the one for now. It doesn't care about colliding with enemies. Enemies care about colliding with the player. It cares about running into objects, and it cares about running into enemy bullets. Oh, no, it doesn't. Player doesn't care about that. The player doesn't care about running into an enemy bullet. The enemy bullet cares about running into the player. Because that's not a... The player doesn't stop if it runs into a bullet would. The bullet would react to the player. In theory, there should be a way to make them behave differently for that. We'll see. We'll see. Uh-oh. I broke a thing. Why is body to track nil? Spawner gets a player target when it arrives. Gets the player. It's supposed to spawn a blob every 2 seconds. Set that to 5 for now. Okay. Why are you not moving? It will depend on the state of the game and how it's working, whether it would be a released thing, Ethan. So initially, it's probably going to be something that I'll make available to viewers in some fashion, whether it's a YouTube member thing, you know, a Patreon thing. I haven't decided that yet. It's probably a decision that we'll make once it's done and working, you know? Oh. I just commented out that it would. Doop. I removed move and collide, so of course it's not going to move. Oops. It would be possible to put it on a website where it could be played. I don't know if that's going to be a thing. You can compile Godot games to be browser capable. If you look in the upper right corner, if you can see it, it's set to mobile right now. That makes it so it could be compiled for web, I believe. Mobile is the most compatible as far as platform. There's compatibility mode, which I can't remember what that one's for. Forensic information about the collision when stopped or when touching another body along motion. Okay, let's do a quick check on that. We're gonna close all here. Into our move and collide here. Oh, we can't call it collision. That's the signal name. Okay, we're gonna change that signal name. There we go. Add user signal. Ah, okay, no. I should still be streaming in an hour. I started about an hour ago, and usually I go about 3 hours. Signal. All right. Maybe see you later then, Ethan. Okay. Collision is null or not. Like, it will return null. That's just lovely. If there is a collision. Hey there, Cheese. We are adding collision to our movement here. Seconds. We have a blob, no collisions yet. I bump into it. Blob says ID. I didn't actually need to stop it for that. Bump. Character body 2D. Okay. Still not what we want. Okay, still just emitting character body 2D. Can't parse the question there. Have unlimited games but nothing to play them all. Is that on? If it's you lack the means to play them, then unlimited games would potentially be useless. Um, but it depends on the definition of the circumstance. Because if I have unlimited games, in theory, depending on the circumstance, I could then take them, because I have an infinite number of them. I could then take some of them and dump them at like GameStop and buy consoles and similar to play them on. That kind of thing. So if there's more to the question, feel free to add to it, because there also doesn't seem to be an alternative. While you do that, I'm going to be right back. If you haven't already, folks, and you're liking what you're seeing so far, remember to like, comment, subscribe, that kind of thing. Settle them back in. We'll restart in just a moment. And we're back. All right. So the question is, would you rather have no females or no video games? Easy question. You're talking to a genderless robot. So I will take the existence of video games. Thank you. Well, there you go. Well, there you go. Welcome back, Ethan. Okay. Now we can get the collider. Now the question is, we now need a way to send a signal to the thing we bumped into. This metal body is vastly is vastly better than a squishy sack of meat. So I get your sentiment. Art and things, you know, and subcategories like music and the like. Is like streaming a matter of, well, it's a business like any other. You produce a product and you are trying to sell it to people. fact, that's it. It's like every profession. Effectively, you are producing a thing, and ideally, people will trade that thing for things that you want. If, for example, it's some sort of engineering skill, I don't know. Usually, when people say engineering, they mean like a physical thing. But you are offering that skill in exchange for goods and services. And that's the same with music. You have to have the same skill set, the same. You have to view it the same way. So it's not just that you're playing music; you're finding some means of turning playing music into a living. Okay, if we get a collision, we want to do something to the thing we collided with. We want to ask it a question. We could do has method. And say, like, if you're hurt. You know, I'm sorry, if you can hurt, you know. I don't like, even if I can, I don't know if I want to try to reach into the object. Okay, we can create a pattern of essentially like an interface. This is not an interface, but it's like an interface where we have particular methods that we ask it if it has them. Bump. False. Okay. So if the object has a method called hurt, then it's going to say true. So if we go into our player, that one. This is not great. It's not great at all. I will have to change this. We'll have to change this, but we'll get around to that. Seconds, run into the slime. Check our debug. True. Okay. So then we go into... Okay, we're going to move this into other entities here. So in mob template... Okay, Okay, it's in movement template. Yeah, collision happened. Okay, we are going to raise a signal in tracking movement. Called, let's just raise. Emit signal. Will it work that way? Okay, we have some sort of problem. Spawner uses player. Okay, part of the problem is that the spawner isn't always getting the player. We go into our game scene. Our spawner is given the player. How do we set up emit signal collision? Oh, okay. Collision. Okay, and then, okay, then. Okay, so emit signal expects okay, oh, hey there, Max. Welcome back. Okay. Had to de-jam the movement. Bump into you. Okay, so then go into our mob template. Do we want it to be the mob body? Oh, I appreciate it, Max. I appreciate it. Okay, do we want it to be a mob body that cares about collision or the mob template? I think it's the mob body. Yeah. Okay, by default, mob body has a collision happened method. So reason I didn't use mob template is just a definition of how to construct a mob body. So if we look in a spawner right now, what a spawner will do is it says like, okay, I get a template, mob to spawn. Like we give it a template. And it looks in that and says, here's the mob body. It creates it. Then it takes the movement template in from that mob template and creates that. But it sticks the movement template into the mob body. So the template it's kind of a line item. So I'm not sure if you're getting an autocorrect issue there, Max, but you, to do bribing, do you mean streaming, VTubing, something else? Because I'm not sure as far as, I'm pretty sure that's not the profession I am pursuing. Okay. So we have our mob body. And we're going to add the child to movement template. VTubing. I had been trying streaming, and I had been doing faceless streaming. The only thing that was visible was the cat cam over there. And it was actually Tacitus, one of the other viewers who may or may not still be here, that suggested that I should look into VTubing. And I looked into it and found, a way to start, which was PNG tubing, and it sort of snowballed from there. Like I said, I have it is my opinion that VTubing began before it really took off in popularity with things like idol companies. But I do get the assertion that that's where it really started. But you can see YouTubers and similar that had used images for like their voice in videos before that. Let alone in streams. There we go. in, and I don't know if I can do it here, but no, it's movement templates. Well, I'm glad that you are that's what you're taking away from these streams. I appreciate that. And don't worry, these are as much coding streams as chatting streams. Template.connect is a collision happens signal to body's collision happened callable. I stream 5 times a week. I don't stream on Thursdays and Mondays. I try to have a schedule listed on YouTube. Sometimes I post it as an image, but I try to get the stream scheduled in advance so that you have an idea of where things are, and it's easier for me to move the streams around if something comes up. Okay. I don't know if that's all we need to do. Template tracking movement. Oh. As a movement template has a collision happened. Okay. Ah. Okay, so now a mob body has this. It does nothing if it's not overridden. So then I can go into blob body. I don't understand the question. I don't understand what, do you need a break? I've been trying to take a break every hour so that it's not just out of nowhere. We'll take this opportunity to refresh my beverage, though. Try to have water nearby so I'm not tempted to drink something full of fake sugars and caffeines. You don't need a VR rig for an avatar. If you're using something like VR chat or there is a basic VTubing program that does 3D and can be used just for like facial movement tracking like this, that I can't remember what it's called. You don't need that. What you need is at the least a web camera. If you're doing PNG tubing, you're just doing an image. You don't even need the web camera. You just need the microphone. If you want to try that, there's a program called VTube Mini that is freely available. That is kind of the standard starting point for that kind of thing. It's actually a robust program for what it's for. Okay, so then if we go into blob body, do that, so we have the exact same thing. Seconds. Bump into it. Blob collision. Okay, we have that. So then if we go into blob body, we have blob collision happens. And we know that it is a collision. Collider.as method hurt. Then for now, pass. I could just pass the collider entity in, but for now we're going to pass the whole collision because the collision has a bunch of other useful things. Floor angle, last motion, all of that stuff. So we could get things like bounce off kind of logic using that. If it has hurt, then we're going to call collider returns just an object, so we're not even going to set it. Ease. That's pretty much the same reason that I took to VTubing, Max, is I don't like being on camera. Okay, then if we go into player, bump. You're hurt. Okay. We're getting there. We're doing things. So what I think we should make next is an entity that describes the act of hurt. So we're going to make an attack entity. And that attack entity will have properties about that. So, how much damage it does, that kind of thing. For the time being, so that's a spawner, that's a player. If people want to watch, that's fine, Ethan, though I will point to one of my stream rules, and that's no promotion of other streamers. This is a relatively standard streaming rule. Because effectively saying, like, hey, I'm going to go stream now, or hey, somebody else is streaming now, is telling people, hey, stop watching this person and go watch this other person. Just a point of education. That is why a lot of streamers say don't promote other streamers. It can be construed as rude. Okay, so we need an attack object. These aren't resources, but boy, I'm piling up things that I'm calling resources. Like, I should ultimately move the player out of the game. Player spawners, that kind of stuff. That's fine, Ethan. Don't worry about it. Because I want the scenes in the game and that kind of thing to be the actual drivers of gameplay. Resources, which is again a bad title. I too dislike that kind of thing, Max. It is an advantage of living in a subterranean area of the Catbot factory, is I don't have to deal with any of that nature stuff. I'm going to create a new folder. We're going to call these actions. And we're going to create a new folder, and we're going to call it an attack. And we're going to create a new script, and we're going to call it attack. Doesn't extend anything. It just has a class name. I always forget this. You have to export is a flag that you can assign to a variable. So you still have to declare that it is a variable. Okay. So then if we go into oh, yep, there we go. Stop. I couldn't find attack in the current scope because attack did not yet exist until I stopped it. That should be the case. And then we go into tracking movement. Okay, it's emitting the collision happens signal. We go into the blob body, and we do... I wonder how you set up a constructor. Oh. Going to attack and just say that equals 0 by default. Damage is type int. Yeah. Movement speed is going to be variable. The player movement is slow to begin with because it doesn't need to be super fast. The player is at the center of the camera, so player movement is the context for all movement. Blob movement will be definitely faster, since we want things to converge and be a threat to you, of course. Do I have to have extends object? Do a little test here. Okay, no, it didn't need that. I appreciate it, Max. Override init. All right. Is it? We don't need that yet. Okay, I needed the new call on it. Can I just do this? I have an init here. I then just say this. Between my game and Vampire Survivors. Core difference. What I would like to do, raw gameplay wise, like core concept wise, is have more layers of item combos. I liked what Hollow Cure did, where you could have stacked, like, once you combine this item, you can combine another. I would like to lean into that and have more and more objects in ways to upgrade them, so that runs are less likely to converge. It's harder to just sit and say, I'm going to wait for item X. It's, I see that I have items X, Y, and Z. How am I going to leverage those? So in Vampire Survivors terms, instead of saying like, well, I want to get the Flame Wand and I want to get the Spinach so that I can get the Skull upgrade, it's, I have the Magic Wand and I have Spinach. That potentially will turn into something. And then once I have that something, I have this other item that I can glue it to. Just start making more and more weird permutations. That is one of my thoughts right now. The alternative would be leading into a Noida-like behavior of letting you daisy chain the objects in different ways to create new weapons. So when I glue these two together, it becomes a rocket that explodes into, I don't know, missiles, you know, little homing missiles. I think that could be neat too, but we're going to start with just getting projectiles firing, and then we're going to iterate from there. And we'll see what we come up with. It could be that my thoughts right now are terrible ideas, or I won't be able to implement them cleanly at first. So there's going to be iteration and testing that happens once we're rolling. Okay, that has to be... So bump into it. And we had a whole bunch of player hurts for 3. We set it to 3. Okay. So this is a way in the blob to go in and say, this is how it attacks. Is it creates a new attack, it specifies it. In doing this, one of the things I can do now is go in and say, the blob has this sort of attack. If I wanted to do something like, I can't remember the name of the game now, but Soulstone Survivors and similar, collision is not intrinsically damage. Like if I bump into a creature, that's not the damaging element. It's if the creature's attack animation happens. I could use this kind of pattern to make it so that the animation and the resulting impact emits an attack that is just a static body right there. And if that hits, then that's what would cause the damage. So a secondary damaging entity that only collides with players would appear. And the player would be attacked by that. Okay. So then we're going to say this hurts for 1. And in player, this is going to happen real fast regardless, but we're just going to go in and say in game. Are we emitting that signal? Sweet. This is brutal. We'll update that eventually. Core does that. Core does that. Q free. Okay. Super moves are good. That could also be another thing that gets built up as an option for setting off a big special attack. I'm kind of reminded a possibility of something like that would be you ever see Super Ghouls and Ghosts? I can't remember what it was in the... I think it was Super Ghouls and Ghosts. The player... So one of the aspects was the weapon that you were using had a super move, if you had at least the green armor. Even better if you had the gold armor. So what you wanted to do, might have had to have the gold. Anyway, so depending on the weaponry that you've got, maybe your super move does something different. Where is it living, then? You free. But save, run. Yeah, one of the big things I don't like about Vampire Survivors is one, facing. I hate games like this with with weapons based on facing because it's very imprecise. It's cumbersome to use properly. If you're gonna have facing, mouse control. The other is I don't like the limited choices that have developed. They've added new weapons that has helped a lot. But there is still the convergence of If I want this weapon to evolve, I have to get this secondary item. Okay, you see what happened? So the player was unloaded. The camera has snapped back to 0, because there is no camera on the player. And it may have broken the game as a result. We'll have to figure out something different to do for that. We could emit a signal that tells the game that you lost, that kind of thing. Connect it in game. On player is dead. We'll connect to that. And we go into player. I think a big attraction, personally, the big attraction of games like that is getting out of control, is reaching a point where the player is so powerful that they can reach the end state of the level. Okay. So the player runs out of HP, it drops back to the game screen. Now, the game could do like an end screen here. And we could go from there. So what I've got is layering. The game screen has its own ecosystem that it works with, and will eventually tell the core handler, hey, the game is over, drop back to the main menu. So this would be, put our end screen right here. Average. As if we look at game, game has a spawner. It has in-game menu that has nothing in it. I have not, Aniji. Those don't ring a bell. At least I don't think I have. Okay, so we've set it up so critters can inflict harm. If the player runs into a critter, they are harmed by the critter. The pattern that we have is that the critter emits an attack object. One of the things I want to do is have an entity here that is the attack that they do. Or attacks that they do. Since in a survivor-style pattern, if it's going to be a collision attack, then that entity does that attack. Like, that's what damage that one inflicts. And what I can do is make a projectile a type of mob that doesn't collide with other mobs. It only looks for the player. And that projectile would attack the player and self-destruct. So let's... No worries, Ethan. YouTube is also a very different ecosystem for that. Raids are actually trickier to accomplish. Like you can, but the settings for it are more cumbersome from the streamer side, and it requires more interaction from the viewer if it's not from the streamer side. Anywho. Okay. Now we need some sort of representation. Some sort of representation of it. So in the in-game menu, so we have a canvas item, a control, so we're going to create a label. We'll look at this in 2D. Bump up our font here. Theme overrides, font size. This is super crude, but we're going to do it this way. Oh, I don't want you pivoting. Interesting. No, you could do that. Oh, okay, that's why. Will that work the way I want it to? Yep. Okay. Yeah. Mechanically, Bullet Heaven games tend towards a large portion of the mechanic is weaving around enemies. But having enemies with various behaviors is something that can be interesting as well. You just have to balance it with the fact that there tends to be a lot going on with the screen in addition. So you can't have everything so busy that in addition to all of the projectiles and whatnot, that it's hard to tell what you're actually supposed to do. Soulstone Survivors, I think, runs into that problem eventually, where there are so many telegraphs on the ground and whatnot, in addition to the particle effects and the animated creatures, that you can get taken out because all of the things that tell you you're going to get hit by damage are obscured by all of the things that are going on in the action. So it's a balancing act. That's ultimately what it is. So the player, we go into game in its script. It's our process. We're going to have our Yeah, you're kind of describing games that are more akin to like your Binding of Isaac and whatnot, where you're in a set piece battle. Like you enter the room, there are creatures, they have behaviors, and you need to adapt to those behaviors. Again, this is not to say that there could be fewer creatures on the screen and fewer projectiles going out, so that it's as much about the behaviors and similar. We'll see where we're going. Well, hopefully it does then, Ethan. Where is our... Ready. Okay. Is to... Thing. In-game menu. Campus layer. Like, this is not great what I'm doing here. What I'll probably want to do is export variables on game and set them to its children. The problem with this is that it is reliant on effectively folder format. So if I change the name of this object from player to something else, it will break this function. If I want the camera on the player, it would be player/camera. And if that structure changes, this breaks. We're just sort of hacking it right now. We are actually going to say that it is a label. And it is going to be game menu/label. It is a label. And the player is going to have another signal. No, the player is going to export this. And then in the game script, in our process, string. Okay. STR. Hey there, Noah. Welcome back. Okay, it's not that. I think we got it. There we go. fourth blob. Oop. Okay, we've got some hacky elements in here currently, but we're making progress. Blobs can appear. We will have to have a differentiator so blobs don't care about colliding with, well, mobs don't attack mobs. We'll also have to have a invulnerability period when the player takes damage within reason. Or a fixed interval that the player can take damage. Because right now it's happening at a frame-by-frame basis here. Well, a physics frame-by-physics frame basis. And then the frame-by-frame is it updating the HUD. I think this is largely okay as far as updating the HUD, but yeah, it's kind of sloppy. We might give the HUD some exposed parameters to show stuff. And player should be a unique entity. Like a special thing, because there's going to be a lot going on with the player object. So let's see if the game... If... Export. Player is a player. We're going to export all these things. And we are going to go into our ready. Go into game. This is player. This is floor tiles. This is spawner. And this is the HUD label. Spawner already has the player target, so we can just cancel that. Gotta stop it, because that is breaking. Spawner spawns a blob. It continues to move towards us. Bump into the blob. We still take damage, and it exits. Okay, so what I just did is I went through, and instead of going in and explicitly saying by text, this label will be set into this HUD element, I said, go into the editor and specify specifically what those are, which child objects are what. That way I don't have to worry about moving these objects around. It will still reference them directly. Yeah. Stepping away for just a moment. Be right back, and we'll continue. If you haven't already and would like to see more content like this, remember to like the video. right, settle back in, folks. We'll resume in a moment. And we're back. Ember is still snoozing on the bed. I think Sammy and Sky are still in the tree. Yes, they are. Zoom in on that here. For those looking at mobile, it's not much of a difference, but kitties. Sammy is on that platform there. She prefers the lower platform. I think it's easiest escape vector from there. She's still elevated so she can see further. But it's easier for her to jump down and run from there than it is from higher up. She's a cat, she could, but, you know. Okay. So we have the basics of interaction now. I think... Okay, we've got the little red balls here. So what if we make a new entity? You know what? We're not going to make a new folder for that. We're going to make that a type of mob. First we need to make a right new. It is a type of resource and it is a mob body. Mob template. It's a red projectile. It has a body object and a movement template yet. And we're going to give it full speed movement there. Okay, so now we need to make a body for it. Scene, and it needs a Bodsy. Red projectile body. Okay. Oh, nice, nice. Red projectile body is going to have the same things. We are going to have a Should just be a sprite 2D. Expecting an animated sprite 2D. Collision shape, and it is a circle. Go into here, into our 2D. Zoom. That is used, so now we have a body. Now we need a new movement pattern. And in that movement pattern, as soon as it has a target, an emission point, and a target, it's going to pop into existence at its point of emission, and it's going to move straight towards where the target was, in that it's going to follow that vector forever. So now we need to go into behaviors, movement, and we're going to make a new one. And we're going to call you straight line. It's not moving in a straight line. No, we just need to give it a target point. It's still straight line. Template is a node, and it needs to be a node. Okay. Create new is a scene, and we're using a template, and we're going to call you a straight line. Straight line, we're going to straight line, it's going to be straight line script. It extends with the template. In tracking movement, we just have our physics process. First, we're going to do a ready function. Going to have a variable and two is equal to by default it won't move. Let's say body to move, collide along movement direction. Okay, so body to move will be defined already at the time of ready. So if we move into tracking movement, and just take this. Where? Oh. We were incorrectly defining it as a vector 2D. It already knows that it's a vector. All right. Okay, so we know our movement direction. And this is a vector 2. It's equal to a movement direction. X equals something else. We could pre-multiply the speed, but it's largely irrelevant. Okay, and create a new resource template. Oh, wait, we already have that? Yeah, we already have this. So we go in, and its mob body is red projectile, and its movement pattern is straight line. Okay. We're going to make a class out of this spawner. Because we want anything that can fire a projectile to essentially have a spawner in it. So that it can just fire projectiles every so often, kind of thing. For the time being, we'll just hack this a little bit. If we go into blob, nest. This is crude. I don't want to do it this way, but we are doing it this way. Load. Straight line. This is in the blob. I feel like I do need a universal object for the player. I need some sort of global to define it. Because I have so many places where I'm using body to track and saying, like, here's the player. Here's the player. I don't necessarily want to do that. All right, all right. Okay, we need to make spawners generic. Spawner extends node is a entity. And then I can set up spawners manually for the time being. So I'm going to move. It's not a mob. Say it's a resource. Still working. Okay. Okay, so we have a spawner that we need to create on it. So this is the game script. All right, we're gonna hack this a little bit. Blob's body, we are going to add spawner. about to spawn. Is that. Oh, we get player though. Global class. Okay. I think I have an idea. So we're gonna go to it's not a part of the root tree. And I don't want to have every single entity know what the player is. That just feels sloppy to constantly have to pass player over. So is there something in maps? About a global node. Okay. Is next up a localization. And this is also where we'd want to have like the player's state, like the global like HP, so that we don't have to reference the label. Okay. Project settings, auto load. Okay, we can't make it that. Gross, but go into the game here. Can I make this Okay, will this work? Yes. In the blobs. Will this work? Will this work? Okay, still doesn't work. Set player target. Go to mob body. Export these. So they are available externally. So then if we go into blob body, look at this. Its body is this, and its sprite is this. So then in blob body's script, we don't have to set these, but we can export spawner as a spawner. No, you don't. Oh. Variable. So then in the blob, we have a red bullet spawner, which is that. Project settings. Go into the game object. Not what we're looking for. Okay, okay. We are going to project settings. And we're going to say you are okay. And then if I go into the game script, find our ready, then I reference that though. Global nodes, okay. Layer is equal to okay. This is probably going to save me a lot of pain. It should not be called global nodes. It should be called like in-game global nodes or something like that, or game global nodes. We'll deal with that later. And I should put it under the games, because this is only relevant within the game. Brutal, hacky, don't care right now. And 1,000, 2, 1,000. Bullet. See it? Little red bubbles. So then inside of red bullet, its collision. Where are you hiding? It exists in enemy bullet space and only cares about colliding with the player. If I bump into one, you can see it's colliding with me. But it doesn't collide with the blobs. These are things that we do need to clean up. They should only have a fixed lifespan. They need to go away when they collide with me. That's easy enough. Okay. So then in red projectile body, in its script, where is it? Projectile body has a body. Is this sprite? Is this? Okay, if a collision happened. Slider. This method. Worked. Attack is an attack. To an attack on new. Three. I want to verify this works, and then we'll wrap up. Oop. Okay. Straight line. I need in theory, I could call base off of this. So base dot physics process and have this collision equal to, you know, body to move, move and collide, and then do this emit signal. Yeah. Don't necessarily like this, but there's, from an object-oriented perspective, this is not great. But now I don't need to care about um tracking movement has the same pattern. Yes. A lot of changes to make at once, but okay. The collision happened event. This spawner should be attaching this event. Collision happened. Collision happened. Oh. Super. Physics process delta. There we go. Every bullet hits and inflicts its attack of 10 damage. Creatures hit and burn you down to nothing almost immediately. Yay! Alrighty, folks. We made some progress today. We do have general collision in place. Spawners need to have a position to spawn from, because I need to move the blobs from spawning at 0-0 to spawning around the edge of the screen so the blobs walk in. And similar. Like, blobs don't have a projectile that they're necessarily going to fire. But that's a possibility. It could be that the blobs periodically try to hit you, and they fire an invisible projectile very fast, straight at you, or like pulse it out in front of them over their whole body, so that it is a they land, they attack, they land, they attack kind of thing. That could be interesting. But for the time being, we'll just do them bumping into you, and we'll have some that fire projectiles, that kind of thing. At the moment, the blobs are placeholders. Blobs are not going to be enemies. It's just a sprite that I rendered and we're using for this purpose. But yeah. I hope everybody had a good time tonight. We will be doing another stream starting Friday, and I'm not sure which one that is. Let me do a quick eyeball here. Checking my own schedule, which I should know, but I don't. Interesting. I'm doing something wrong here. This disconcerting. Oops. Oh dear. Oh, we're just gonna end you right away. Well, oopsie doopsie. Oh, that's annoying. I didn't actually start the tall format stream. That's a problem. Oh well. Anyhow. Our next stream is going to be... Okay. We're going to be doing Ace Attorney starting Friday. Well, it's going to be on Friday, not starting Friday. We're going to be continuing our Apollo Justice playthrough. Should be fun. We had just finished up a case, so it'll be a fresh new one. So swing on by if you'd like to see that. I promise I will actually get the tall format stream working properly this time. I know what I did wrong. Oh, but again, I hope you had fun watching today. If you haven't already and you liked what you saw and would like to see more, remember to like the stream. That will help the algorithm find you things like this in the future. In the meantime, I hope you all have a good night. Bye, everyone.